Faye, what's going on, brother?
What's up, my friend?
How's things out in the West Coast?
I mean, honestly, I can't complain. I mean, it's Cali, you know.
Right.
The weather is good. It's Saturday. I'm actually moving back into my home, so you know, it's good. I can't complain.
I hear you. How's everything out there as far as like the pandemic or whatnot? Is it like shut down or?
I mean, everything was shut down. Now it's pretty much you can't eat inside. Masks are required. In any building, there's no more than 5 people. I mean, we're pretty strong here, but most things are open. The mall is still closed. You know, but everything else is but it's just a new world, you know.
Right. It's pretty scary stuff, honestly.
It is. You want to go?
Now before I got into Remyline, what's the story with the Frenchies? When did you decide to start going that direction?
So pretty much it was kind of weird because I never saw myself as a Frenchie person.
Right.
But primarily what happened is I live in Venice Beach, and I don't know if you've been to Cali or stuff. Cali is not really like the Carolinas where you get a lot of land.
Right.
And so forth. And to be honest, it's just having big dogs now in the world. And it's like the Cadillac is not a cool car no more. Everything is getting smaller and smaller, you know.
Right.
Just having bigger dogs, it's just a lot more harder to move around with. And then my style of dogs, as you know, is a Remyline dog. I like a working dog.
Right.
You know, I'm not an exotic person. I think they're cool dogs, but if a dog can't run and just do something to me, it's my thing.
Right.
So, with that being said, with the medium to the bigger size dogs that are active, it's just a little harder now than like before having them. You know, and then the world has kind of changed to where things are downsizing. But then I miss the dogs as I kind of went away from Remyline. I kind of had his time in the world and did its thing, and the game changes and I stepped away. I still miss the dogs.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So hence, the Frenchies kind of came in just because, you know, they're actually really cool. I don't know if you've ever had one or not, but I've never had one. But when I got one, they're like the most funniest little dogs ever, you know.
Right.
And then I realized there's also like a market, like how the bully world has a market and so forth, that exists from the corporate market to the underground market, and you know how that works, right?
Yeah.
So I just said, well, you know what, man? Let me put my hand in this side of it. You know, I'm back with the dogs. So that's where my passion is. I'm a dog man, and kind of create my version of what I like of a Frenchie, which is just a little more bullier, but still have the spark, the drive, the personality, and so forth, you know? So hence, that's how that came about. So it kind of kept my passion going.
Right.
They're so much more easier to move around with. You could go in public with them, and it's not as there's no scare effect. You know, it's a whole different world. It's a whole different world. So hence, I kind of came into that, and real happy with it. You know, I mean, I'm older now. I'm not like that young buck before. You know, I'm a little older, and you slow down a little bit. You know.
I gotcha. So how many do you have right now?
I have one Yeti, and I have 2 more coming in. Because I'm in no rush. You know, I'm not trying to take over the Frenchie game. I'm just kind of enjoying the dogs and building my program, really doing a lot of research on what I want, and just taking my knowledge from Remyline into this side. You know, the good thing I got going for me is the fact that I kind of have a little name. You know, I get a little respect as of like, okay, if he's doing something, we can keep an eye on him. You know.
Right. for sure.
So that's the good thing. It's like, it's not his world, but we still got to keep an eye on him because, I've been there, done that.
Yeah, you've definitely made a name for yourself.
Thank you.
Actually, as far as bullies are concerned, Remy was actually my top three. Um, I had I loved Cairo. I loved Gotti.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the notorious one Gotti, and I loved Remy. That color of Remy drove me nuts. Like that color
Right.
and that face and everything.
Right.
But by the time I caught up with everything, I mean the game was pretty much already over.
Right.
Um,
Well, the reason why you like what people don't understand what Remy was. What made Remy Remy was the bridge from American Pit Bull to American Bully, and I'll explain real quick. American Pit Bull guys hated American Bully guys, right?
Mm.
Which is hilarious because American Bully guys hate exotic guys, which I think is the most funniest thing because the American Bully guys are saying the same thing about exotics is exactly what the American Pit Bull guys said about American Bullies.
Right.
So the good thing that happened to Remy was a bridge because he kind of had a pit bull look just a little more, but he had the pit fire.
Mm.
So the American Pit Bull guys was able to kind of say, okay, we can see he's still kind of one of ours, even though he's going to the other side.
Right.
Does that make sense? Now Dax was the American Bully. That went to the whole other side. That was the full transformation there,
Mm.
But like Gotti and Monster and stuff. So when you say those are your top three, 'cause I know you're a pit bull guy, I get it.
Mm.
And then Remy had that pit bull color, it's a blue fawn, but it was a dark, deep like oak wood, just a pretty, tight features and so forth. So to me, he was a man's dog. Remyline were man dogs. Like, you got to be a man to have a Remyline dog. You just couldn't be some. I mean, it's just like having a motorcycle. You want to rev that engine up a little bit.
Yeah.
You got the stoplight and you're revving it. You just like to hear that. So
Yeah, of course.
that's what I love. I think I went on a tangent, but anyways.
No, it's all good. That's what this is for.
Right.
Okay, now most, especially on my channel, have heard the story of where Remy came from. But
Right.
just to reiterate, if you wouldn't mind giving just the quick
Yeah.
backstory leading up to Remy, like when you got into pit bulls and then to Remy, if you could just give us the short version. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Right. No, I'll block this off for you, so you're fine. You can do it.
All right.
You gotta do it. So this is the story, which is I find it hilarious because everybody has a version of the story that's part of the story, but they're only giving their version based on what they saw. But this is actually the story. So I've always been a pit bull guy, diehard pit bull. That's all I've ever had. And then I was on the net, like back in the day, just looking, and back then you have to go to web pages, and I came across Gotti Line.
Right.
This was Ed Shepard's Gotti Line, and Ed. This is how history goes back. Ed Shepard, about 2 months ago, went and bought a dog named Blackjack.
Right.
He bought that dog from Richard and Jack and all those guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Ed did a breeding with Blackjack to Sheba, his first breeding ever, right?
Mm-hmm. I
saw that. I went to Ed Shepard's yard and I saw Blackjack, and I was done. I was done, bro. I was like, oh my god, like I got to get something. So here's a funny story. I was the first person to buy a puppy from Ed Shepard. Isn't that crazy?
Is that right?
And
what year around? Do you remember?
This had to be like 2000, like 2000, 99, maybe 2000.
Wow.
Right? So Ed did that breeding. Now Sheba was a Ray certified dog. Now I didn't know bloodlines. I didn't know all that stuff. I just thought blackjack. You know, a regular pit guy, unless you're in the real pit, but a regular pit bull guy, we just like there's a pit. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And back then it was like the taller the better. You know, the bigger the better, right? I saw blackjack and I lost my mind. So I bought a dog for $1,200 named Buddha. And I said, I'm going to take over the world. But now, this is just pretty much what all newbies do, because when you don't know, right?
Yeah.
I go back and I bought the dog from Ed. Buddha was the dog. I start promoting this dog, Buddha, you know. And at that time, I was called Big Fay Pitt.
Yeah.
Big Fay Pitt is my name. I got Buddha. But like anything else, you start surfing the web, and then all of a sudden, I start noticing other dogs, right? Started noticing other dogs, I went and bought a treadmill for $2,200. It's called the little big, the big red treadmill, or the little whatever something. The little big treadmill. Because I'm like, I'm gonna put the dog and work him out. You know, I got my Buddha and so forth. Now I didn't know those like Buddha is not the type of dog you could put in a treadmill, right? Because I'm used to if I get me a pit, he's gonna figure it out. So this is where the treadmill story comes in. So, anyways. That's going on and so forth. And I'm looking at other dogs and I'm like, man, Buddha, you look good, but I don't know if you're going to be looking like these dogs.
Right.
And that's from that day now Buddha's now about maybe 6-7 months old.
Mm.
That day I went from a pet owner to a breeder.
Right.
Because this is when you know you could do this game. This dog I loved. Buddha, I'm talking I loved. $1,200 was a lot of money back then for a dog, especially if you only buy dogs from the papers for like $200, $300, and so forth, right?
Right.
So I knew I became a breeder when I sold Buddha to a guy in Texas. When you can sell something you love, that's when you know you could do this game. Mm-hmm. Okay, sold Buddha for $800. Took a loss, plus all the money I put into him, you know, training, promoting, and so forth. And I called. I got a hold of True Tank, Sean Gilmore. Mm-hmm. I bought a dog from him named Zoe, and then my buddy bought another dog from him named Maximus. Okay, got those dogs. Kept looking. And I came across George Magruder, and I saw he had some puppies on there. Now, at that point, on my website, I had my treadmill for sale. So I called George, and he says, "Yeah, I got this little male pup. You know, if you want to get him, it's $2,500." I said, "Well, you know, I got a treadmill I just bought. How about I give you the treadmill and $500?"
Right.
And he was like, well, okay, you know, that's cool. I don't know nothing about Blue. I don't know nothing about Sage. I'm just calling George Magruder. I don't know Tilo. I don't know all these people. I don't know nobody. I'm brand new in the game, right?
Right.
So me and my buddy, at that time, I had a Denali. Now, that treadmill was so big that it was sticking out the Denali, and it was cold. We took off like about 10 o'clock at night, got to George's about maybe like 1, right? And we were freezing on the way up there. Get to George's, I see Remy, I see Medusa, which is his sister, and so forth. Now, I don't know, at this time, I don't know George went and bought the dog from Tilo. I don't know none of that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
All I know is I'm going to George's house to pick up a dog. I get to George's house. Remy just looks like he has parvo. At that point, I didn't know about parvo that much, but I'm just like, that dog looks sick, man. He's like, no, he's just underfed. He'll be all right. And I'm like, well, no, let me get the female. He's like, no. And honestly, I was going to walk from the dog. Then my buddies are like, dude, we're not going back home with this fucking treadmill because we froze our ass coming up here.
Right.
This crazy story. So get the fucking dog and let's go. Right, you know? I swear to God. So I'm pissed now, dude, because we drove cold. I'm excited. I'm thinking I'm taking a huge loss. Here, George, here's your $500. So I don't know where they got $250 from. $500, right? And My buddies took the treadmill out and scooped up my dog, put the dog in the back. I'm pissed. I'm pissed driving home, dude. I swear to God.
I can imagine.
I get home. Yeah, I'm get home. You know, I put at that time I was calling him Judo because I was taking judo lessons.
Right.
So I called him Judo. So I put him in the backyard, and my kids and my wife was asleep and so forth. You know, and obviously I'm taking care of the dog and stuff, but I'm not thinking about this dog. Then I start talking to Sean from because remember I was doing business with him with the other dog, and he's like, "Yeah, that dog comes from so and so and so and so," and he looks like his mother Remy, his grandmother Remy, shipping champagne Remy, and I was like, "Oh," he's like, "You should call him that." So actually, Sean from True Tank gave me the name for Remy,
right?
And I was like, "That's cool. I'll call him Remy." So that's how the name Remy came about. So anyways, about 2 weeks, dude, I'll never forget this day. I come home, you know, every dog man, as soon as he walks home, he comes in, he walks to the front, and he walks straight to the back. Most dog guys. They put their dog boots on, and they just go. So that was my pattern. I go to the back to pop the kennel, and this thick little puppy come running out. I'm just like, oh, shit. My wife sold on Remy. She got me a new one. So I went inside and I'm like, Lord, what happened to Remy? She's like, he's back there. And I'm like, quit playing. You got Remy because she knew I was mad with the dog, you know? She's like, Remy's back there. Bro, I went back and saw him and he was just this nice little healthy little puppy. And from that day, just kept growing. And that's the story of how Remy came about.
At what point did you realize, you know, he was the real deal? Like,
I knew he was the real deal. I went to, at that point, I'm promoting him, right? You know, because I'm putting him up on the net and stuff. And I'm nobody. I changed my name from Big Fate Pits to Low Jack Kennel. Because I was like, man, Big Fate Pits, because people call me Big Fate. I'm like, that don't sound too cool, you know. Because at that time, everything is websites, so everything got to be cool, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm like, Lockjaw Pits, you know. And I'm like, no, babe, you got to get away from the whole fighting thing, you know. And then somebody already has a Lockjaw. And then I was just like, LoJack. Everybody knows the name LoJack. You know what I'm saying? At that time, LoJack, every time you buy a car, they would try to sell you on a LoJack. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm like, LoJack Kennel, Remy Martin, right? So that's how I got LoJack. So I still didn't know he was the real deal. But I knew he got a little part because I went to Cruz, which is Bow Wow Pitt's house, to see him. And Cruz was like, that's a nice dog. Then Cruz called Dave and was like, hey, this guy has a nice dog, right? So that's how I got a little, you know, I felt good. Then I went to meet Ed, and that's when I met Tilo. And then Tilo brought Blaze, and I was introduced to Tilo, and then Tilo's like, man, you have a nice dog there. And I'm looking at Blaze. I'm like, gosh, look at Blaze. Is he going to be like that? Because Remy's a puppy. Blaze was like a year older, right?
Right.
Or 8 months or whatever older, but he was the older brother from the first litter. And I'm like, man, look at Blaze. Oh, my God.
Blaze was Remy's older brother?
Yeah, Blaze and Remy are Remy's from the repeat breeding.
I got you.
Blaze was from the first breeding, from the first litter.
Okay.
So I'm looking at Blaze and I'm like, oh man, he's nice, you know. Is Remy gonna be like that, you know? So that's how I got introduced to Tilo. So, but when I knew I had something special is when a guy from Japan called me named Yohei. And he says, hello, Mr. Fabian, this is Yohei. You know, I would like to come. Is it okay if I can come to see your dog? You know, at that time, I'm like, sure, no problem. He's like, I just flew in from Japan. I'm like, what? Man, he came. He brought his tape measure. He was taking pictures and all this. And I'm sitting at my sliding door looking at this like, okay, this is bigger than I have a nice dog. Right. You know, that's when I knew at that point, I just didn't have a nice dog. I have something, you know, I'm not a spiritual person, but I believe in elements and stuff like that. That's when I knew. I said, I have something that is bigger, because the one thing about Remy, and this is how a lot of my tagline lines came. my taglines didn't come because I'm this brilliant person. They came because this is what was actually happening. When I came up with kennel maker, kennel breaker, right? It's because every time somebody came to my yard, they went home and they changed their yard. And that's what I always used to say. If somebody comes to your yard and they don't go home to make an adjustment, that means in their mind their yard is as good or better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's where kennel maker, kennel breaker came in. The word one dog, one line, where all that came in was because at the end of the day, everybody kept coming back to Remy, that dog, I want that, because if you saw him in person, you went home and literally it changed your life. And it might not even be in the dog world. In some way, this freaking dog moved people, man. And at that point, I just always felt I was a channel for whatever this dog is supposed to do. So I just think I just happened to be in the right place, the right time, and the right person was with the right dog. Does that make sense?
For sure. Definitely.
And that's how that whole thing kind of happened. Because Remyline was just not about the bloodline. Remyline was a movement of people, that literally was like tattooing their bodies, that was literally saluting, that was moving as one. It was deep. It's pretty deep.
Where is Remyline today? Like, who is really still doing it?
There's a lot of guys that are really still doing it. The problem that kind of happened is that it's like anything else. Traditional Remyline dogs are it's kind of like saying, let me go and get a gray line dog. Let me go and get a Jeep dog. It's the times have changed. So the guys that are really doing it, truly doing it, it's a smaller group. What a lot of people are doing it, they're incorporating the Remyline into the other bloods now because they have to evolve. But there's handfuls of guys in all over that are doing it. I couldn't really pretty much just tell you exactly which ones, but I know a lot of guys will come and say I have all the original stuff, and that's great. That's great. But they're around. If you really want to find them, you can. If you say, hey, you find me a couple, I could definitely go find you a couple.
Right. As far as the bully game today, what are your thoughts?
I think the bully game today has lost its perspective of the dogs. The bully game today now is a business.
For sure.
And as of like dog men, I think there's a difference of a dog man and a dog creator. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
A dog man is building from within out.
Right.
A dog creator is building from out in. Because when you talk to a dog man, what's he talking about? Drive. Whatever this thing dogs, hunting, working, whatever it is. He's not, aesthetics is not the first thing he's looking at. The first thing he's looking at, what is the mentality of this dog? Is for whatever my purpose is, that's a dog man. A dog creator says, I want to make more muscles, I want to make this and this and that. I don't know what the dog says, I just want to build a sculpture.
Right.
And one isn't better than the other. I think the bully game now has a lot of dog creators. They don't have any more dog men.
Right.
And that's my personal opinion.
I gotcha.
As of where I think the game is going, I think it's like music. Where rap music was in the 90s is not where it is now. All the guys in the 90s don't like the guys in the 2000s.
Yeah,
the guys in the 80s don't like the guys in the 90s.
Yeah, don't get me started on that.
Right. Yeah, you can't hate them. It's just got to just say, So for me, with Remyline, if they bring Remyline back, I look at them saying it's had its time, so let it live up for its time. Now, what a lot of guys do in music now is they kind of sample old stuff to bring into their new stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So let Remyline be that. When someone says, I need to get some more drive, I need to get some more functionality, you know,
Mm-hmm.
then what blood can I say is going to have a dog bark? What blood can I guarantee the dog's going to bark? Remyline.
Right.
You know, so that's what I think the guys need to understand is whoever has it, use your tools to help other dogs, you know, let your stuff be a sample, because there's not going to be people walking around saying, I want Remyline dog. The world has changed.
Mm.
You know? So, I mean, that's my outlook on it, you know?
I got you.
And if you know, they may like, well, Faye just gave it up and so I didn't sell out. I'm just keeping up with the times. You have to evolve. We used to say either evolve or dissolve. I'm not going to dissolve. I'm always going to be evolving.
For sure.
You know? So.
Yeah. Still water runs stale.
Exactly.
Well, when you said, I'm going to wrap this up here, but before we end off, I wanted to ask you, when you used to have, you know, when you were into pit bulls before Remy and before Buddha, are we talking about like the game stuff, or are you more when it started getting bigger and bulkier?
Yes, I was more into like the weight pulling pit bulls.
Okay.
The big dogs. You know, I wasn't into the game stuff. I liked the game stuff because, but I liked when I used to see those little dogs that are shredded. But see, I used to see those game dogs pulling weight.
Mm-hmm.
So I like them. I like the weight pulling type of. I like that working style of it because I wasn't in the world of the other stuff.
Right.
So you know, I didn't know that circle. I wasn't in that world. I was in the world of, like I was telling you, dagger line. You know, pulling weights, going to weight pulling shows. You know, that was like, to me, was awesome. You know, that's where I kind of started. I never thought I was going to get into breeding in that way. I never thought, you know, I was going to create a bloodline. I never thought all that type of stuff. All that stuff just kind of, it just happened organically.
I gotcha.
You know.
Now, where did the idea for the RKC come about?
Well, the RKC came about because, for me, I always wanted the RKC to be like the AKC of the bully world.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the way I was looking at my perspective was RKC would be the AKC, ABKC would be the UKC, you know,
mm-hmm.
and everything else would be like ADBA and so forth. That was just in my head. I wanted the RKC to be a little classy, to stand for, you know, the working dogs and not just be the AKC. I mean, I know that sounds kind of some bougie stuff I'm saying, but that's what I wanted. But
you also, like, it sounds like to me you also kind of wanted maybe stricter standards, more uniformity.
Yes. Correct. And so when I was building the RKC, that was the focus of, like, I wanted the stuff to go to corporate America. I wanted to be on TV for, like, the Nationals, you know?
Right.
But the American bully can never do that because you can't just go into corporate America. You have to play by their rules.
Right, for sure.
You know? And it's like, I always tell people, they say, why do you say? I said, look at this. Lowriders, guys that have lowrider cars.
Yeah.
Big following, big money, big everything.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll never be in corporate America, no matter what. And they might make more money than guys that have, you know, those different car shows. They might be laughing, but you know what? It just will never happen. You're never going to get that recognition worldwide. It's always going to be an underground thing. Right. I didn't want that. I wanted to, on Sunday morning, the RKC, and show these bullies, you know, show the pit. You know, so that was my vision. I was like, well, if Remy could have done this in the world, RKC could do it. Why? Because it stands for everything AKC and represents. So why can't we do it?
I guess the farther it went away from Remy, Gotti, Monster, all these classic dogs, the minute it shifted away from that, I just started backing out, you know.
Right, you know, and it's like I said, everybody has to stew in their own stew, is what I say. And the people that are angry or so forth, if this stew isn't if this is the stew is not your flavor, then you're sipping the wrong stew now. I knew the stew was not my flavor anymore.
Right.
So I either could create my own stew and hope other people follow it, or I could fit in the stew that other people made and just be mad and not be true and just can't, you know. And that's what I think the bully world has a lot of people that looking at dogs knowing that ain't right, but they're just like, well, I'm stuck in this because I already spent my money. I got to make my money back.
For sure.
You know, and I think that's the problem. It's like, I think if a dog can't walk, bro, come on, man.
Yeah.
How are you going to breed with that dog, man?
It's like, where do you draw the line, you know?
Yeah, it's like, so it's not my call. I just know, I know what stew I want to be in, whether it's good or bad. I think once people start owning the truth of their stew, I think the dogs in any arena will just be better, because at the end of the day, man, it's a creature. It's living and breathing. And I did my dirt. I mean, I'm no saint, you know. I've made some turns, I've done some stuff I shouldn't have done, you know. And I'm okay with that, and I live with the consequences of that, you know.
For sure.
You know, so, you know, but the person that continues to keep doing it, I think that's where the issue becomes. What is sad is that I don't see it getting better.
Right. Yeah.
That's the sad part. So it's kind of like you just kind of have to just focus on you and what you could do. But trying to fight that fight when people are saying, man, I'm making all this money, shut up.
Right.
How are you going to tell a guy that's like, dude, you go ahead and be Mr. Save the World. I just got 20 grand in my pocket. I mean,
yeah.
it's
for a puppy, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. I mean, hey, you know, it is what it is. But the good thing you're doing is that your content you're creating, you're putting it out there. You're not opinionated. You can listen to the stories, you know.
Right.
Because, you know, we could all look at the same car accident, and trust me, you're going to get 10 different versions.
Yeah, you see a 6, I see a 9, you know.
Correct. So it's you know, that's why I think your content is great, and because you're doing your passion, and believe it or not, what you're doing, you change one person or you help one person in something, you're winning.
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
You know?
I don't know, it kind of all started just because of, you know, the basic stuff. I would, you know, when I started to learn about, you know, Gotti, Edge, all these different dogs, all bloodlines from the bully world, and then starting to get into the game dog lines and learning those. And, you know, you see somebody with a nice dog, and I'm like, oh, man, that's a cool dog. Do you know what line he is? And he's like, American Terrier Brindle Red Nose.
Right.
Like, bro, no.
Right.
You know, like, and then the first thing on their mind is, well, I got a dog, so I got to breed it.
Right.
And it's like, bro, no. Like, you know, I was, you know, for a long time, and it still could happen in the future. For a long time, I wanted to breed, and I actually wanted to breed band dogs for a while more than anything. But I don't know. As of right now, I'm just completely like, you know, I think not. Just especially for the here and now, I don't even want to really. Like, I honestly, and I know it would make a lot of people mad me saying this, but you know, especially for these bigger, more dangerous dogs, I kind of want to see people have to be, you know, licensed to own it, and
absolutely,
and then licensed to breed on top of that, like,
right?
Because I think it would clean up a lot of the mess.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a slippery path, and like I said, we all did our stuff, and you know, I think everyone just comes to a point where it's like you just got to own what it is, and hopefully you figure that out earlier than later. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, hopefully you're just like, I'm good. Like you said, man, I kind of don't want to breed because, you know, I get it. But on the same token as And I was exactly where you are. But the good thing I can tell you, bro, is you're able to substitute your passion with your podcast and so forth.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you being a dog man, you're going to get back into finding, breeding, and creating. I'm a Remyline guy. Mm-hmm. I'm holding a Frenchie. That's like two total different things. But to me, yes, it's not even about the Frenchie anymore. It's the fact that I'm able to now create something that I want, that I look for, without worrying about, this crew or what they're going to say or this and that. It's the greatest place, because when I was doing Remyline, you have no idea of how many different facets was thrown at me, from love, hate, just constant.
Yeah.
Like when I think of guys like LeBron and stuff, it's like no matter what the guy does, there's going to be an opinion. It's like, dude, the guy just wanted to eat the bowl of cereal with his left hand. All of a sudden, he's using his left hand as an insult to the left-hand community. Like, what? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I say this to you is that as you're evolving and so forth, you're going to find that place, and you're finding it's where it's like, hey, you know what? If band dog is what I want to do, I'm going to create my band dog for me, and whoever wants this style, that's what it's about. Because now it's not about the money, it's about creating for you, and it's a great place to be. And a lot of these guys, they always say, I'm selling out, getting out the game. Well, 2 months later, they're back in the game buying new dogs.
Right. It's definitely an addictive thought. Like,
exactly.
I never been like a top of the line breeder. I've had some litters, some backyard bred, some papered, being young and being a knucklehead. But now it's just like, it's hot and cold. Like, as of right now, it's like, yeah, I don't even think I want to do that. But if I did, come into some nice land and that, it's just perfect, and you're just like, man, well, now I don't really feel like, the inner me is going to give me a choice in the matter.
For sure. But right now, your purpose that you're doing, like I said, I don't really want to. I wrote down your stuff. I was just like, I looked at all your stuff. I just didn't look at the one you did on me. I looked at all your stuff, and I was just like, this guy really loves the dog.
Yeah.
And nothing in here is biased. It's like, hey man, this is from my perspective. This is what I see. I don't care about what the stories are. This is what I see. This is what I know. Right. Here's the info. Y'all want to rebuke it. Y'all want to this and that. I'm just giving you the info from my eyes.
Right, and that's pretty much what I do. And I did the Remyline video when I first saw.
Yeah, I heard Tilo's video, and it tripped me out, because up to this day, I don't know where me and Tilo went wrong. I have no idea, which blows my mind. It's like, we never had an argument. But it's fine. It is what it is,
Right. I want, and there was, and there's requests from other people to jump on and talk about this and that. My whole thing is, like you said, being unbiased. I want everybody to be heard, because 20 years from now, like, the next generation is gonna need to know about this. And I just want to get as close to the truth as possible, and hopefully, in 20 years, maybe the bully game will, somehow hit a restart, and go back to what it was. I mean, I know there's still people out there doing it, but the classic and XLs are like what used to be the norm.
Right. I think it will. I don't know if it'll be a restart, but what I guarantee will happen, and this is just life in general, you always got to go back to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Does that make sense a little bit?
Yeah, you gotta go back to basics once in a while. Right.
Because as you're moving forward, you might move forward the wrong way. Well, in order to get back on path, you can't. You gotta go back to see where you went wrong, and so you could go back forward. Because if you keep moving forward the wrong way and you hit that wall, guess where you got to go? Like you just said, back to basics. What do they say? When you're in a shooter slump, what do? Go back to basics. You know, and, you know, I golf. Hey man, if you lose your swing, what do they say? Go back to basics.
Yeah.
You know,
pretty
so
much.
It's just life in general where it has to happen. You have to go back to the dogs that are functional. You have to go back to the dogs that are breeding right. You have to go to the dogs that have legs. You got to now get rid of this dwarfism that you got in the dog leg. You know, so it has to happen. I don't think we'll ever go back to the original dogs, but I do think you will start seeing some images and some elements of the original dogs coming back because it has to happen. You know.
Oh yeah, I mean, if it doesn't, it's only going to get worse. I mean, a lot of them already represent the English Bulldog too close, which is one of the most unhealthy breeds there is out there.
Correct.
I know there's still guys out there, you know, doing it right. You know, I've talked to a few guys that have that classic look. They're not, you know, they're still clean, and they just kept breeding on the same stuff for the past 15 years, and it works for them. And I just wish there was more of them, and I wish there was more that were health testing as well. Like, I think that needs to happen more often, and I think to get rid of the whole paper hanging thing, I think DNA should be mandatory. Yeah.
But what I am going to be doing, not to change it, is next month I'm actually doing my first Remy breeding. I have one straw on him, and hopefully she takes. I want to have a Remy son at least at the house. Right. So I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah, let me know.
My female that I have, I'm excited about that. Right.
I'd love to have you on again just to kind of announce it to people.
Yeah. Once when I breed her, the female name is Tomboy, but she's she's from the new school stuff with a lot of old school elements, and I'm now bringing back in the old school back into it. So shorter, thicker, has a more on the American Bully side, but you know doesn't have drive, but she has enough drive. I'll take the video of her. She's real nice, but I'm excited about that. She should be coming in next week, and because I need to have at least a dog to protect my Frenchies in the backyard, right?
Right, of course, definitely. I'm gonna go look up some photos of good old Remy so I can get this audio together. But man, I really appreciate this interview, and if you'd be up for it, man, maybe we could do a part 2 at some point, especially if that
you got my number, dog. Anything you need, just hit me up.
I appreciate that, Faye.
I'm actually going to be... You're in North Carolina, right?
I'm in South Carolina.
South Carolina. Okay, so I'm going to fly out there in a couple months to pick up a Frenchie I'm buying.
Okay.
And if I'm close by, I'll come and check you.
All right, man. Yeah, I'm in the Myrtle Beach area. I could definitely figure something out, man. It'd be cool to hang out for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll keep you posted on it, and then if we can link up Grace Mac, you know, we always got the cool.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, man, I appreciate it, dude, and I'll hit you up on Facebook and let you know when everything's touched up and ready.
No doubt. Okay.
All right,
you
bro.
You be safe out there.
You too.
Okay,
take it
bye-bye.
easy, brother. Peace.